On today's episode, we'll talk about skipping school to make movies, working at a rental house to learn how to use a camera, Braveheart, The Martian, and of course, having to decide if you want to do the new Spielberg movie or the new Lucas movie. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Live it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Margaret. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I am Dave Comides, your host, coming to you from Atlanta over the internet with an amazing operator with an amazing career, Albert Hall. I'm just going to put out a couple of his credits because it's a long list. Extraction 2, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, The Martian, Quantum of Solace, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, Godfather 3, Braveheart, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, A Fish Called Wanda. The list just goes on and on. In 2020, he was nominated for the BSC Operator Award for The Rise of Skywalker with the great Colin Anderson. And in 2016 was nominated for The Martian as well for the BSC Award. Just an incredibly storied career. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Danny Bishop tells me you have amazing stories, so I'm hoping to hear some of them. Did you guys just finish a show together?
We're still in the process, actually. Yeah, still.
Oh, is that right? Oh, wait, is this the new Star Wars?
The new Star Wars? Yeah.
How's that going?
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, I can't say too much, but
no, of course. I mean, but is it just massive? Those movies have to be just unbelievable.
It's on a big scale, yeah. I mean, there's some amazing sets and stuff, and
that's great.
It's interesting. Having done quite a few, it's like a new take on it for me.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Very cool. So tell me, how'd you get into the business? How'd you get started?
So I going back to my school days, I was really into making films. I had this vision of one day having a chair with my name on it as a director and stuff, as probably everybody does, and it's just something that really interested me. And I just sort of was fortunate enough to have family in the industry to give me my break. It's sort of originally I was going to come in as in the construction side, but then last minute there was a turnaround and I went to a camera rental house. In the UK, I mean, there wasn't that many around in that days. It was like we've sort of mostly concentrated on 16 mil.
Okay.
We had the odd 35 here and there, but the main one in the UK was a company called Samuelson Films, which I don't know if you've ever come across or heard of.
Is that who made the Sammy that plastic thing?
That's moved? Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
the focus wheel, I guess you called it, or the focus. I don't know. It was like the
depth of field chart.
Yeah, the depth of field thing, and which always I used to look at that, and it completely confounded me.
It's very simple actually, if you know, but obviously growing up with it, it's easy.
There's a lot of information on there. So were you a film buff when you were a kid?
I never sort of call myself a film buff, I guess, but I just used to sort of go and skip school and go to watch the movies and stuff. That's spent more of my time in the cinema than at school in the classroom. But it worked for me because I was classed as what they call dyslexic at the time, which wasn't really, nobody really understood it. It's, dyslexic, it was like, no, you're a problem child. Not there's not an issue. It's just a child sort of thing.
Well, and the irony, of course, is the kids with dyslexia tend to be visual thinkers, right? So you're well suited for it.
Probably. I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's where it comes from. Yeah, and it's like, who knows? I don't know, but so that was it. And I used to shoot a lot of 8mm film with the classmates, and I'd say, "Come on, look, let's not do this today. Let's go and do this." I had a couple of great teachers that allowed me to do that.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
because I guess for them it was a way of them, not having to do too much teaching. It was like, let him take over, take the class to wherever you want to go. I'll come along and just be like a supervisor. But I guess it made their lessons easier for me
Yeah.
to
So,
sort of.
did you made like little short narrative films or something like that?
A little bit. It didn't really. I didn't have sound on my standard 8, so
Yeah.
it was just I used to put music tracks over it, but it was more visual stuff, and you just think up these little ideas and do a little
That's
script of
great.
stuff, and off we'd go.
Do you have any of them still?
I
They
still
all
do
gone?
actually. Yeah, I've still
Geez,
got them. Yeah.
you ever transfer them to video?
I haven't done. I still now and again where I get them out for the family and say, "Come on, watch this," and it's like,
That's great.
yeah, and
I
and
love
a
that.
couple of little horror films that I've tried to make and stuff. It's just
Oh, that's
crazy
fantastic.
stuff. Yeah, it's crazy
That's
stuff.
great.
But
So you got a job at a rental house, and are you just learning every camera? And this is
absolutely,
what
yeah.
is this early 70s? What is this?
Very, yeah, we're
Okay.
late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I actually went freelance, I think probably around 72, 73, something like that.
Meaning
Um,
you left the rental
left the
house then.
rental house to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say it was like I have to say it was a great learning curve to be in there, because you learn everything about film cameras, lenses, it to the point of stripping them down, rebuilding, all that sort of stuff. So
Sure.
it was a great sort of background to have, and it's something that I think has been very important in the whole career for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and then obviously we used to service a lot of 16 mil productions, and the crews would come in to prep and everything, and you just sort of get to talk to them, and then you became their prep person or whatever to deal with them in the house, and just
Sure.
their go for sort of thing, and it's just getting your name in amongst them and just every now and again slot in. Yeah, I'd love to do this one day,
Yeah.
hoping that they'd take you on board,
Do you remember
Um,
the first actual movie or project you went out on as a freelancer?
I do, yeah. The very first feature film,
Yeah.
was a thing called Sakharov,
Okay.
directed by Jack Gold, was the
Oh wow.
director.
Okay.
And we had a DOP called Tony Imi, who was an ex BBC cameraman
Uh-huh.
that had broken into the film world, So that was really good. But prior to that, when I actually left the rental house, I did a lot of 16 mil stuff where you had like a DP or a cameraman and you were the assistant, and then you had a sound mixer, and you'd go out and shoot stuff. And we did an awful lot of, in those days, it was pop promos with a flavour. So
What were they?
pop promos, like bands would come and do a video or
Oh
pop
yeah.
video.
It was
Yeah,
like the precursor to music videos almost.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we
All right.
used to shoot a lot of those. And the guy that I worked with was, he had a contract with Island Records.
Oh
So
wow.
we had like Tears for Fears, Blancmange, all the Island record,
Yeah.
Steve
Actually, it was
Winwood and
Island.
those
You must
guys.
have, well, I don't know about the years, but you must have done U2 at some point. Maybe
U2
that was
was
after your time.
I didn't do U2. I did some KLF stuff, and
Uh-huh.
so it's all those sort of bands that you'd go out
That's
and
great.
shoot their their music videos and
And
stuff.
was it just performance stuff or was it narrative as well?
It's mostly performance
Yeah.
stuff, really. Yeah, it's just like that. Again, they came to a production and said, like, we want to shoot this for our song.
Yeah.
That's how they
Yeah.
promoted it in those days. Like
Yeah.
now, it's all done online and it's streamed
Sure.
and everything. But
And so you were basically the only assistant, like you were loading and pulling focus and everything.
absolutely, yeah, the whole thing, yeah, yeah. And it was just a team of three, so you'd go out, shoot it all, then it'd be delivered back to wherever,
Yeah.
whichever production were dealing with it. And
Oh, that's great. So on that movie Sakharov, were you loading or what were you
I
doing?
was, yes, I was, yeah. I mean, I got the opportunity, unfortunately, for the guy that was originally down to do it. He had a motorbike accident and broke his
Oh,
arm. So for to as a clapper loader, what they call them in those days, it was a
yep.
bit difficult with only one arm to
Yeah.
load magazines and stuff. So I owe my break to him, I guess. And
Hmm.
I've spoken to him over the years, but I think he's retired now. But yeah, so I owe a lot to him and
That's
he's
great.
excellent, really. So
And do you remember, like, was going on set the first time overwhelming as far as how it worked and whatever, or did you figure it out
not
pretty
really,
quick?
no, because when on the rental house, obviously, because it's such a small company, we
Yeah.
used to do everything. Prep the gear, deliver it, collect it, check
Oh,
it
okay.
in. So you'd often be on set, to see what goes on because you were going to pick the equipment up as such, or there was a breakdown that you had to go and repair or something like that. So I got sort of almost a hands-on of how things go on a film
Understood.
set.
Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb looking at the work that you've done and just you're in London, that you probably know, Terence Nightingale?
I do know Terence Nightingale, yeah, I
First of all,
do, yeah.
Terence said to send you his love.
Oh,
Um,
okay,
but
cool.
Terence
You mean
talked
the
to me.
director, Terence Nightingale
The
now?
director, Terence Nightingale, exactly. You should, by the way, see him on set as a director. There's the full-on, trench coat and the tie, and Terence is perfectly dressed at all times. He's a really good director. Actually, he's
He
great.
always has been the same. He
He,
would always,
he was
on
like that back
location.
then.
Yeah, yeah. On location, if you're going out that night, as you do,
Yeah.
he'd have all the outfits laid out on the bed to choose. That, yeah, he
That's
hasn't changed,
fantastic.
obviously.
Well, he also told me that one of his jobs, he told me there were many jobs as the loader, but one of them he told me was the tea. He said the tea was very important. And the other thing he said was when you were on location, your job was to figure out where the restaurants were and the clubs and to call ahead and say such and such people are here and we'll be in at such and such time, and the red velvet rope treatment and all that.
Absolutely, yeah, and do your job as well. It
And
was
do your
like,
job as well. So
yeah,
did you have to that first job, Sakharov? Did you have to figure out how everybody wanted their tea and get the cakes and all that stuff? Was
absolutely,
that all part of it?
absolutely, yeah. Your job, it didn't matter how bad you were at your job as long as the tea was the right color and it was, and also in those days they used to drink out of a proper mug or a cup. Um,
With the saucer and the whole thing,
Not so much a saucer, but it was like
but-
a mug. We call it a mug. I
yeah,
don't know what it's
okay,
the same, yeah. And yeah, they drink. But the thing was, like you're drinking out of now, yeah, exactly that.
yeah.
But they would never bring them back to you. They would always be left somewhere. So you'd have to go searching the set to find them. Then you have to wash them and stuff, And it was
So
just,
you
yeah.
had them for the next day.
Yeah, well, for that afternoon or
After,
whenever, because it was a
okay.
it was a regular occurrence. You know what I mean? So
Okay. Was it every
yeah.
couple of hours? Was that the thing?
Sometimes, depending on the crew that you were with, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know why, but I've talked to so many British camera operators and whatnot, and I'm just fascinated by the whole tea thing. And he told me about I guess maybe it was at Pinewood. There was the lady with
The tea
the
trolley, yeah,
with the tea trolley, and she'd come in with the cakes, and there were only certain, you had to get in the front of the line.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just sounds fantastic.
And you had to pay for them as well. They weren't free. So when I say you had to pay for them, it was we had to pay for them, and
Yeah.
then spend the rest of the week trying to get the money back from the DPs and the operators and the focus pullers were normally pretty good, but it was the DP was the worst. And it was just, yeah, and you're talking not a lot of money, but I guess in those days it was a lot of money. But
Well, and
yeah,
probably more money to you as the loader than it was to the DP, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
good, yeah,
This seems
absolutely.
this seems to I've heard this from a number of people that getting the money back was a big part of it and trying to figure out how to maintain that. But I
Yeah,
guess it's a rite of passage, right?
it is, yeah, and I guess like nowadays you talk about it, and the youngsters sort of look at you like, oh, really? Because you have a craft service, and it's like, there's so many different types of coffee that is unbelievable,
Yeah.
and it's
So was there even a craft service back when you started out? Was there anything?
no, no, no. You had the caterers, and you had on the stage when you're on the stage, you
Yeah.
had the in-house catering, and that's when the tea lady came round at 11, I think it was in the morning. Nothing at lunchtime. And
Yeah.
then in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she'd turn up again with a god awful tea. It was like in a big tea urn that was so like 400 tea bags gone in, and she does all the stages. So if she comes to your stage last, you can imagine the colour of the
Oh
tea
my gosh.
and the taste, So it was all that. Hence why suddenly it became our job to make the tea.
Okay, this now
Yeah.
makes actually you've explained it better than most people have. It makes
Right,
much more
right.
sense to me. So that's
Yeah.
important. So
And also the DPs didn't have to pay for it, so it was cheaper
well,
for.
yeah, that's a bigger deal, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, absolutely,
it's
yeah.
all it's earning your keep, I guess, right? Or rites of
Yeah,
passage.
yeah.
So did you then after Sakharov, did you jump ship and just become a full-time freelancer?
I did, yeah. So, but at the time of Sakharov, I was freelancing then, doing the music videos and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then that was it really, and from then on, it just after Sakharov, I think the next thing was one of the Bonds. I did a thing called A View to a Kill.
Oh my gosh.
Went on to that, and it just like escalated from there really.
How
Um,
old you were a loader on a View to a Kill?
yes, I was,
And
yeah.
how old are you at this point?
Early 20s, I guess.
So is it blowing your mind that you're on a James Bond movie? Because me, I like even now, it would be overwhelming to be on a James Bond movie. I know you English guys, it's nothing because you've all done one, but I think it's the coolest thing in the world.
To be totally honest with you, it wasn't really. It was just like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I didn't. Yeah, it didn't blow me away. I guess when you sit back and look at it,
Yeah,
um, then you think, well, what an opportunity, to
yeah.
to do this sort of stuff. But at the time, it was just not just say it was a job. It was a job. I really enjoyed it,
No, I understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and as a loader, or what they call them, second assistants now, or whatever. But as a loader, I just had it really sort of to a set organisation that I could
Yeah.
actually have time on my own. Like say, I'm going to go and do the mags, and you could just go disappear, and you could get 10 minutes on your own, do the mags within like 2 minutes, get all that done, and then send them back on the stage, and just spend a bit of time.
Yeah,
Um, of your own time, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Looking for the DOP's cups most of the time, but yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, it was good, yeah. So I sort of like I did that for quite a few years, and within the industry in my time, it was like you didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to move on." You were told to move on. It's like right, you've done this
What do you
too
mean
long.
by that? What do you mean by that?
Like to move from a clapper loader to a focus
Yeah,
puller, and then from a focus puller to an operator, and so on. And it was like I was quite happy doing what I was doing and enjoying it. And sometimes you get involved, like they never used to use the Zoom that much, but occasionally they get a Zoom, and then you talk the operator into doing a Zoom because that's what you did as an assistant,
oh, okay. Yeah,
and you got an extra £5 a week on your pay packet to do Zoom. So as soon as they said, "Oh, let's put the Zoom on," you jumped on it and said, "Hey, look, should we?" Most of the time it's just to get a different size lens or whatever, but it was
yeah.
like, "Well, can we do a Zoom? Can we do a Zoom?" Because you get extra money, you
You
know
get
what I
extra
mean?
money, and
So
then you could cover the money that the DP owed you for the tea.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you did a deal. Yeah.
So that was a way to sort of like get your hands on the camera a little more and start to
Be
figure
a
out.
bit more involved in the shot, because it was all like, you took pride in every shot you did, and it was like, for me, just putting the sticks in, it didn't seem much, but it was that scene didn't start until you put the
Yeah,
sticks in, so you
yeah.
are part of that.
That's
And then
cool.
obviously getting involved with the zoom, you're a bit more involved in that shot, and you could sort of go, oh yeah, I
Yeah,
was part of that shot, rather than
that,
just clapping
that's
and
great.
walking away.
But you mentioned you didn't make the decision to move up. You were told to move up. Was it sort of like people just went like you've been doing this too long? It's time
Yeah,
to do something
pretty
else.
much. Yeah, because I worked with a couple of focus pullers at the time, and it used to work out pretty well because one would have a show, we'd finish that show, the other one would have a show. So I was constantly working all the time, and it's like, your social life is exactly in the films. You don't have a home social life, which you've
Yeah.
probably experienced, and
Oh yeah.
you sort of try to plan things. It never happens because you're always something comes up.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I had these two focus pullers that were like the top focus pullers in the UK.
Who was that?
There was a lovely guy called Martin Kenzie, who
Uh-huh.
sadly passed a few years ago, but he was great. And then there's a guy called Simon Hume,
Oh,
who,
Simon Hume,
right,
who's Martin Hume's son, or no,
his
his
brother.
brother. Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So Alan Hume's son.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they were like my two main guys, and they were constantly working.
That's great.
So for me, it was fantastic, yeah. But then it
And,
got to a point Martin wanted to operate, and we both got the opportunity on the same show. So he went up operating, and he said, "Right, you're now going focusing," So
oh, okay. So
mm,
everybody just moved up a peg.
we moved up
Yeah.
a peg, yeah, exactly, yeah. And it was like, and then the same happened when Martin went lighting. He said, "Right, it's time you moved on to operating. I'm going up, so are you."
Oh,
So
that's great. That's
yeah, and
great.
it was great, but it was very like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Because again, I had done it for so long that I was comfortable, and and yeah, I pulled focus for many, 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 many years.
So, but was it something that you would have preferred to have stayed? I mean, look, hindsight is something else, but at the time, was it sort of like, why am I being moved up? I'm perfectly happy here. You would have been happy staying as a focus puller?
Um, I guess so, but like I say, hindsight. Now that
Yeah.
I've moved on, then you think, oh, I should have done it sooner. Um, but it's just at the time because I don't know. You just have it sewn up so well that
You get comfortable, right?
you're comfortable, and and I was earning good money. I was non-stop working,
Yeah.
which was a big plus. And you think, oh, if I jump up a grade, am I going to be as busy? Because the industry weren't as big as it is now,
Hmm.
with technicians and stuff. So you sort of felt like, okay, if I jump up, if I don't get a call for a few months, what's going to happen? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I felt like stay as I am, but then obviously looking back, it's like it was the best thing I ever did, really, just to keep going, moving on. So
And I was told that I'm trying to think of who told me this, and I can't right now, unfortunately. But I was told that in London there were like the feature people, and there were the TV people, and there were the sort of
the
commercial people.
commercial,
And they even drank at different pubs. It was very very separate. So how did was it working at the rental house that got you in those different things, or how did you go from one to the other, from the
I
music
think
videos?
yeah, I think I owe a lot to the rental house because I got to know the contacts
Gotcha.
that were feature boys. You know what I mean? So, and you're absolutely right. There was that, not so much a divide, but there were the feature guys, the 60 mil TV guys, and obviously the commercial guys.
Yep.
I did a couple of commercials, but they really weren't for me. They were good. I was quite fortunate because the commercials I did do were like high end, big scale.
Okay.
And you'd go on location, so it wasn't as if you're doing pack shots in the studio or whatever. I was quite fortunate in that world. So um, and I did quite a few with RSA, and who was there? There was like three big commercial companies that used to employ
Yeah.
film people, because they wanted the results or whatever and stuff. So you were, it may sound a bit big-headed or whatever, but you were classed like, oh, they're feature guys, they're sort of high end, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
But it's no disrespect to the TV guys because it's just the same, but on a smaller scale,
Yeah.
So it still has to be sharp, it still has to be correct, So, but yeah, so I did a few commercials, and obviously that's where I got involved with Ridley Scott and Tony Scott and that sort of stuff, sort
Uh-huh.
of coming through the ranks in their world, So that was quite interesting, to do that.
So one of the things I said early on, and I just have to ask you about this. So, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I think Terrence worked on as well, right?
Um, I can't remember. It's such a long time ago.
Yeah.
He may have done. He may
I
have
mean,
done second unit maybe for us.
that could be. That could be. I just was that just. I mean, amazing what they were doing at that time, because we look back now and we go whatever, but I can't even comprehend how hard that must have been.
It was very interesting actually. Yeah, it was very interesting because we had guys came from LA
Yeah.
with they'd adapted the VistaVision camera,
Okay.
and they built this sound housing for it, which was a huge big thing, and you had this huge big casing to keep the sound down from the VistaVision camera.
Yeah.
But then the lenses were Nikon or Nikon, whatever you call it, the little small lenses, and
Teeny little lenses on the front.
this huge big casing, and you think, wow, but so we'd shoot 4 perf or we'd do 8 perf or whatever, depending on the particular scene that we're at,
Yeah.
So we had a an English crew, which was the 4-perf with the Panaflex, and then obviously the American guys on the VistaVision stuff. But it was
Because you shot the four perf for anything that didn't have Roger Rabbit in it or the other ones,
pretty
and then
much, yeah, when it was just like just a regular artist and stuff. It was
yeah.
shot 4-perf, and then we'd switch over when the characters were involved, and
And were the assistants having to do the crazy measurements of everything at every point so that they knew back then, or was that not the way they
pretty
were doing
much, not as much, but they used to have like a small, like a very basic encoder type scenario
it? Okay.
that would register everything,
Oh,
the
okay.
sort of key points that they needed and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, I mean, I think back in those days, it was down to the experience of the visual effects guys,
Uh-huh.
because it was an ILM show. So those guys were sort of the visual boffins, and
Yeah.
they sort of knew exactly what they needed, where they needed it, how they needed stuff, and obviously having the 8-perf Vista gave them
Hmm.
a bigger frame to work in, you know what I mean? So yeah, it
And
just seemed to
I
work.
I know you weren't pulling focus, you were loading, but I mean, were the focus pullers having to pull focus on characters that weren't in the frame? Like, were they
Oh
having to
yes,
fix
yeah.
that?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, yeah, all the time. Even the actors sometimes were like Bob Hoskins. I'll never forget. He had a in the scene where he gets handcuffed by the
Uh-huh.
police, the
Yeah.
cartoon police. Yeah, and he had to do that whole scene, with the
Well, there's that whole
special.
thing where they're pulling his hand all over the place, right? And they're
Exactly.
yanking him
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
So there's nothing there. He's doing that
He's
entirely
acting it
himself.
out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
incredible, actually. I
Yeah.
wish maybe there is behind the scenes of that, because I mean, the funny thing is, you think about Bob Hoskins, and it's like I don't really think of him as being like an overly, athletic guy. He's kind of. I mean, he's stocky, and but he doesn't seem like he'd have that in him. But clearly, he did.
He
That's
did,
amazing.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then the guy that did the voice for Roger Rabbit
Yeah.
used to come dressed as Roger Rabbit every day in the full outfit, with the ears and everything, and it
No
was
way. So
just
he'd be sitting off camera doing his lines.
doing the voice, yeah, doing the lines and everything, but in this full outfit,
I
dressed
love
as
that.
Roger Rabbit, it's crazy. And
Oh,
then
that's
all
great.
and the other characters are all like a foam style characters that were just put there as reference and stuff. And
Yeah.
I actually managed to get one of the penguins,
Oh,
and
no
then
way. The
I had
penguin.
a cutout of Betty Boop as well. Like I don't know where
Yeah.
they are now, but I at the time I thought, oh no, get that. But it was great. It was really really cool.
That's great. Well,
Um,
we all, I think we all do that. There's a little bit of like, hey, anybody gonna miss this? And then something goes in the
yeah,
card, and then, like you said, years later, you're like, whatever happened to that? But
yeah.
that
But
is that.
nowadays they have a whole team that stop you doing that. There's a whole
Yeah, it's
new
a little
team.
different now. There's no question.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they've
Yeah, yeah.
realized how valuable these things can be. So
That's
yeah,
right.
you got
Yeah,
to be a
cool.
little more
Yeah.
careful now. But actually, do you know Kelvin Pike?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was over in London just about a year ago, and I interviewed Kelvin, and we did video as well. So we're in the we're in the we're in his house, which is this house that's 200 years old or whatever. Um, and I said, can we do it over here? He said, yeah. And I said, do you mind if we move this coffee table out of the way? And no problem. So we go on to move the coffee table out of the way, and as we're picking it up, he goes, you know where that's from? And I thought he was going to say a store or something. I don't know. And I said, no, where? And he goes, I took that off of the set of The Shining.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's great. I love the fact that you guys used to do this as well. Now, actually,
Exactly.
nowadays, the thing that frustrates me is at the end of every show, they have the big sales, and they sell everything from the show at usually not very discounted prices. So it's sort of like,
They sell
whatever.
what they want to sell. Yeah, not
Yeah,
the that
exactly.
they
They're trying
don't
to
really want. Yeah, it's the
make their
stuff
money
that
back.
they used to steal.
I have to ask also about A Fish Called Wanda, just because it's one of my favorite movies. Was it a fun movie to work on?
It was very good. Yeah, we had a lot of fun on that. A lot of laughs. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
myself and the key grip were constantly getting into trouble. Even the cameraman was struggling because it would be so funny, and
because you're
you
laughing during takes. You mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
used to get sent away like naughty schoolboys. Go on outside and come back in when you can calm down. And
yeah.
but they used to play on you. It's like I did a film not long after called Nuns on the Run with Robbie
Oh yeah,
Coltrane.
I remember
Um,
that.
and again, he would get you corpse in, and then he's got you, and he keeps on and on and on, and you literally have to walk away because he's just, a funny man, and he knows he's got you. So, but again, myself and the key grip was constantly being sent off the set, because it was just like we're trying to act here.
Yeah, but like you said, like they're feeding off of that, right? Then they realize
Absolutely,
something's working, and
absolutely, yeah.
I
It
don't
was great fun.
I don't know if they have the equivalent there. I mean, I'm sure they must, but we have, 4 camera sitcoms here, like situation comedies, 30-minute comedies on TV. And the first time I ever worked on one, someone in the scene would say a line, and everybody on camera and behind the camera would laugh out loud. And I found that totally alarming because you're not supposed to talk or whatever. But on sitcoms, they do it to give them feedback of that to help them. It was a
Yeah,
strange situation.
yeah.
Yeah, I talked to Jamie Lee Curtis, and she said that that was just a wonderful cast and crew, and she had such a wonderful time making that movie.
Yeah, it was good fun. I mean, when they did the second one, that I managed to get a few days on it.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was totally different, I guess, because once you've done it, haven't you? And
Yeah, it's hard
it's
to. The
hard.
second, it wasn't even called. What was it called? It
It
was
was
called something
fierce
totally.
creatures. Yeah,
Yeah, fierce creatures. That's right. Yeah, it's hard to, it's hard to recreate lightning in a bottle, right? I mean, that was just
yeah,
everything worked in that movie.
yeah. It did. Yeah, and then we had Charlie Crichton, the director, who's like an old Ealing TV, BBC guy as the
Yeah.
director, and he was just fantastic, And I think he must have been 80 something
Oh my
when we
gosh.
were shooting it. He was quite old, but really like had the full marbles, but the body was lagging behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was quite a funny man as well, So the whole combination was really really good, So it was good, yeah, good
That's
experience.
that's fantastic. What position were you on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
I was a focus puller on the B camera.
Okay.
On that, yeah. So again, Simon Hume was the A camera focus puller.
Okay.
And then obviously you got to move up. So I
Sure.
was the B camera focus puller on that. Yeah.
And who were the operators that you were working with?
So we had the lovely Mike Roberts,
Uh-huh.
who's no longer with us, but and also a guy called Dave Worley.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Uh,
his name quite a bit actually.
yeah, Dave. So they were the sort of thing. Mike and Steven Spielberg were so close that I think Mike did most of Steven's stuff back in those days. Every
Yeah.
time it was always Mike was the operator and stuff. So
Yep.
so that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was
Wow.
good. It was just that was another experience having working with Steven, and it was like it's nothing that you've experienced before because he was so on it with
How
everything.
can you give me an example? What like how so?
Well, basically, when we turned up to shoot, he said, "Look, this movie's done. In my head, it's done. All we've got to do is put it on film."
Yeah.
Because he'd spent so much time pre-production and everything, so it's just a matter of shooting it and then putting it together. So he knew exactly what he wanted, where he wanted, how he wanted, and you just used to go 100 mile an hour all day long, and then at the end of the day, thank you guys, and he'd go and you'd look around, there'd be equipment everywhere. It's like the whole, we used
Okay.
to call it the 6 o'clock headless chicken, because the last shot of the day, it was literally every single piece of equipment that you had was out on the floor, and you
Wow.
shoot, and then bang, thank you very much, guys. See you tomorrow, and he'd gone, and then you just sort of sit there and go, wow, okay, you know.
As the dust settles and
As the dust settles, yeah, exactly, yeah, just walk back to the truck, crack a beer, and go, right, let's put this away. You know what I mean? And it was just like that every day.
that's great. So I'm assuming, are there storyboards for everything, or is it in
Yes.
his head? There's storyboards you
There's
have.
storyboards, yeah. 'Cause obviously it's all from his head, but
Yeah.
to let everybody else know, the storyboards were there, and you pretty much stuck to the storyboards because that's how
Well,
he wanted it.
that was my question for you, because I can obviously, I mean, it goes without saying that you can see the benefit of that. But I've also worked with directors who get something so caught in their mind that when they get onto a location and either it's slightly different or the actors are doing it differently, they can't move on from there. Were there times where something didn't work where he would just go, "That's not working. We're changing this up," and
Yeah, he would do. He would do, yeah, but he was experienced enough to sort of he could do that and say, right, look, yeah, looking this way, this not working. Let's go this other way,
Yeah.
And there was one scene that I always think about it. There was one scene in the film where they were in the airship, or the blimp,
The blimp. Yeah.
um, and they were trying to escape, and they go through the blimp and jump into the plane, and then it releases, and off they fly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the construction has spent 3-4 weeks building that set, and Stephen had this idea that we'd just do like a wire cam through the whole thing and do the
Oh,
dialogue on the run, one
okay.
shot.
Yeah.
And that we did it in one shot. I think we did 4 takes, and he said, "Great, I've got that. Let's move on." And the construction people were like, "We've just spent 4 weeks
We-
building this. We did one shot, and it was one take all the way through. Dialogue was perfect. Thank you very much. Let's go, move on." And
So he clearly originally had a different idea and then looked at it and said, "There's something here."
it's
Yeah.
something. I don't need this or that.
Yeah.
This is all I need, and it worked. And yeah, Harrison and Sean Connery just played it out. Bang! Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I think it was probably half a page of dialogue through that whole scene. And it was 4 takes. Let's move on. And
I'm
it
going to
was
have
it.
to go back and look at this again because I recall the sequence. I don't recall that being one shot. Now with this, I'm going to have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, it's just a big high wide
Yeah,
tracking down the center of the airship, and
that's
they
fantastic.
go out of frame, and that's it. And then the next thing you see them released from the beneath the plane, and that's it. Off they
Yeah.
go.
Uh,
But yeah,
I,
stuff like that.
I got to ask Sean Connery, a good guy to work with.
He was, yeah, he was. He didn't want to be there all the time.
Oh, really?
You hear these stories about, he's in it for the money and stuff. Yeah, he was. He loved his golf.
Yeah.
And if he
Well,
could get away,
he was a little older at that point too, right? I
he
mean,
was. Yeah, he'd been there, done it many times. Yeah, but
exactly.
he, but he would just like want to come in, do his bit, and go. And
Gotcha.
it was just like,
Yeah. Okay.
the least time you had to be there, the
Fair
better
enough.
for him. Yeah.
I want to make sure to ask you. Do you remember the first time you saw Steadicam?
First time I saw Steadicam. God, yeah. It's hard to say, really.
Or do you remember it coming on the scene and becoming something that people started to use?
I do remember that, but yeah, because I used to have to look after it again because the Steadicam operators would, we're going to go, guys, we're on the Steadicam in the next 2 shots, and you had to go away and build it and have it all balanced and stuff because the operators would say, yeah, that's your job.
That's your job.
How it became our job, I don't know, but
Oh, how things have changed. I mean, not to say that I don't have assistants do it, but it's not their job. They usually want to because they want to learn. So how did you learn? I mean, did someone take you and teach? Because when it first came out, I was just talking to Jerry Jacob, who's an American Steadicam operator, and he literally had access to number 12. Like he was one of the first people.
right.
And I said to him, so was there like a manual? And he goes, not really. There were a couple pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you learn how to do that? Did an operator show you, or?
I've always been someone I watch from afar, or I sort of just I'm sort of a people watcher,
Yeah,
and I sort of look what's going on and just pay attention and just take it all in, I guess.
sure.
And then most of the time with the Steadicam, I found it easier for me to do it than stand there waiting while the operator was faffing around, as I'd say. So I found it is so much easier just to do it, build it, balance it, and then say, look, there you go, is that how you want? And then a couple of little tweaks on the
Yeah,
on the gimbal at the top, and away
gotcha.
you went. So yeah, and that helped me when I moved up, because when you moved up to as an operator, back in those days, you needed to have Steadicam. That was the way to get in. You had to do Steadicam as well as
Yeah,
operating.
yeah,
And having sort of again watched and learnt from some really really good operators in my time as a focus puller, I learnt an awful lot. Composition, breaking scenes down,
uh-huh.
knowing your angles, knowing your left and rights. Sometimes knowing that you don't have to do 25 takes on a 20 mil on a 4-page dialogue scene. Just sort of try and win that trust in the director, that you just
Yeah,
say, look, we've got that now. Should we move in for the closer coverage? As you know yourself, it's
yep.
the actors get
Nothing
tired and stuff.
changes, right?
No,
Nothing changes.
exactly, yeah. So, but it was just I would just watch, and there was a lovely operator that I used to work with called Derek Brown, who was David Watkins' operator.
Okay.
And because David being David, Derek had he was always involved with the director more than David really. So I learned a lot from Derek because he could break a scene down just from one rehearsal.
Yeah.
And he'd say to the director, okay, look, this scene, 7 shots all done, and he'd say this, and this, and so that was really nice to sort of see him work, and work from that, and that sort of took that on board for my career, really.
But that's sort of, I mean, we've always been told that that's the English system, is that the operator and the director kind of break the scene down and then the DP lights the scene. Is that still the situation?
It depends, really. I mean, now we don't. Well, say we don't. I haven't worked an awful lot with English DOPs. That mine's always been, American or
Okay.
European or whatever. So there is that. The director and the DOP work together so close, but it's up to you to try and, win that trust with the director.
Sure.
That you then do away with not say do away with the DOP, but allow the DOP to do his job as lighting, and you deal with the director.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you take that sort of pressure off of the DOP because you're now with the director. So, but yeah, it's just that sort of the years of working alongside guys like that you learn and just sort of get in there with them. And that's the sort of, I guess, the relationship that I have with Ridley. I've done a lot of films with Ridley as an operator. I did a lot of films with him as a focus puller. So we've grown up. I've grown up with him.
Yeah.
As such, and I believe he has a lot of trust in me. And again, he's like Stevie. He comes to set and he knows exactly what he wants. Everybody's got the storyboard. Everybody knows where you're at, but he might have a different idea in the morning on the way in the car. And you always know because the drawings you get are like stick men, whereas the normal drawings are full on because he does all his own storyboards.
Oh, I got you. When he has time, they look good, and when it's in the car,
when it's an idea he just suddenly has on the way in, and suddenly you see these drawings and they're so simple.
That's
it's still very good, but they're so simple, and you think, okay, he's had an idea. So
something just came up, yeah.
And then you just go to work, and he will allow you to express yourself, and there'll be times where he's got this shot that he wants, and then you think to yourself, it's not really working. So you would just do it and then say, hey, Rid, what about if we try X, Y, Z, and they go, oh, show me, and then you do it and he go, yeah, okay, great, lovely, yeah. Or he'd just say, no, just do as you're told.
Yeah. No, now, is that because it's you or is that with everybody?
I don't know. So we do go back a long way.
Sure. He obviously knows that you have value, and I mean, that's the thing. The great directors that I work with, who are the people that I love, will always listen to me. They won't always agree with me, and that's fine because there's
exactly.
10 different ways to tell a story, right? And I haven't had it in my head the way they have, but they'll always listen because to me, they don't have the ego that they know everything, and they realize that someone can. Ironically, there's a great director I work with quite a bit named Tommy Shalami, and I asked him once if I could be involved in prep. I know you guys get to be involved in prep, but we don't get to be involved in prep.
Not always.
Yeah, not always. Yeah, and I'm sure less and less as money is changing. But and I said to him, I'd really like to be involved in prep, and he said, look, it's not that I don't want you there. It's that I need you to come into the scene the first time we see it with the actors without all these preconceived notions that I have, because it's a check and balances. And I thought, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then I asked him if I could get paid for it anyway, and he said that's not going to work out. But
we've all tried that one. Yeah,
you got to give it a shot, right? So, what was the movie that you moved up to focus pulling on? Do you remember, or was it a movie?
What did I move up to? I really can't remember. Too far back, yeah.
Right. I do want to ask you specifically about Braveheart, because one of the first interviews I did was with John Toll.
Right.
It was amazing.
The lovely John, yeah.
And I stupidly did not I didn't realize that Braveheart was his third movie. Which
That's right.
Still, to this day, blows my mind. So it's his third movie. and his second movie he got an Academy Award on, and he's doing his third. I mean, it's just kind of I mean, granted, he had a huge career as doing commercials and this and that. But I mean, was Braveheart just like? I mean, the scale of it just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, if I can name drop a little bit, but I'd been working with Philippe Rousselot
Yeah.
on a show. We just finished Interview with a Vampire,
Okay.
and for me, as a focus puller, that's probably my hardest movie I've ever done.
Just because of
Because
all the night, or what?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
the night. It was a combination of the night. It was a combination of the operator that Philippe had at the time, and
Uh-huh.
Philippe was going through a bad time personally.
I got you.
So
It happens.
it,
Yeah.
it was a massive build up of everything. And myself and the gaffer, Biggles, John Higgins Biggles. I don't know if must have heard of Biggles.
I've
He's
heard of the name. I don't know. No.
yeah.
He a legend?
He's a proper legend, yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason he's called Biggles is because he's got the moustache, the old fighter pilot moustache with the big twist and
That's
that.
great.
And him and I, we suffered a lot of pressure from
Understood.
others. So for me, yeah, and again, like I say, it was all night work. We were shooting on the Panavision lenses with the blue stripe. Do you remember those? So
Oh
you had the
yeah. So
white
yeah.
line and the blue line, and it
Yep.
was Philippe would always give you the stop that was right in the middle, and you're like, do I go blue? Do I go white? It was all that, everything. And then obviously Tom not wanting to come on set until everything was ready.
Oh my
And then,
gosh.
so you had no rehearsals, and he'd come on, and I'd worked with Tom before, and I could say, look, what are you going to do? I don't know. And so basically I was busking it,
Yeah. Yeah.
90%, and just off you go, and just like, where the hell is he going to go? What's he going to do? So it was quite stressful. But then in those days, you watched dailies the following morning, everybody getting early, come back from the labs, and
Yeah.
you'd sit down the front like you'd be in the dentist, in the dentist chair, and everyone
Yep.
sits at the back. And you just
Gosh,
hope,
I'm getting
those times.
anxiety listening to you describe that. I sort of missed that, but it was also it was rough.
It was
Yeah.
that time, yeah, and you'd had the phone call from your assistant that had been to speak to the lab prior, and so you knew something might be coming up or whatever. But
Brace yourself.
yeah, exactly. But going to dailies, watching that, it was like to see the result. I used to go, wow, thanks. I was so relieved because it was
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
And having had the day before thinking, oh, this is it. I'm finished today when they see this,
Is that
thank
right?
you.
Wow.
But then seeing the end result, and then with the final film, it was, I was so proud of it, chuffed that I'd sort of done this show and survived it, and it actually looks really good, so I was pleased with
Beautiful.
that. Yeah. So then, getting back to the Braveheart thing, it was
Oh, it's
like,
all exterior day.
all exterior day, but I'd been working also with an Australian DOP, Dean Semler. You must know
yeah,
Dean
sure.
and stuff, yeah. And so Philippe had another show to do, and he asked me to do it, and I'd said yes. And then Dean rings out the blue, says, "Oh, Albert, what are you up to?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just off to do something with Philippe." No, you don't. There's this new DOP on the block. And he said, "You got to work with him." I said, "What do you mean? He's coming to the UK. You got to work with him. He's." And I said, "But I already said yes to Philippe." No,
Yeah.
forget that. You got to go with this guy. It's John Toll. He's the
Oh
new up and
wow.
coming. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was thinking, what do I do? Do I tell Philippe or do what? But Dean was so insistent, and I thought, well, I've got to give it a go. And so
Yeah.
obviously Philippe wasn't too pleased that I've had to turn him down, but I went on, obviously, and that was my start of my career with John Toll,
Yeah.
which was fantastic.
He is such a wonderful man, and I'll tell you, he was probably the third or fourth person I interviewed, and
Right.
I mentioned this before. The first couple ones, because I just started this, whatever, I just started it. I had people come over to my house, and I would go into my daughter's bedroom because it was like all the way in the back of the house and it was quiet, so we do it in the bedroom. And then someone said you should interview John Toll, so I'm like, so I sent an email to him, and he said yes. And all of a sudden, I thought, I can't have John Toll come and sit in my daughter's bedroom. I mean, now that I know him, I could, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but
At the
he's like
time,
John
yeah.
Cole, right? And so we ended up going to Panavision and sitting in their theater. And if you listen to the podcast, the first 10 minutes or so, I'm very sort of wooden until I realize, like, oh, this guy's actually really funny. He's got a
Yeah,
great sense
yeah,
of humor, and
yeah,
he's a wonderful man.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. So there's one particular shot that I've always remembered from that made me think focus puller. Oh my gosh, was the sword being thrown in the air? You know, the
Oh yes,
sword.
yeah, yeah.
Did you pull focus on that shot?
I did. Yeah, that was John's idea actually.
Oh,
That
was
was
it?
that was John's idea. Yeah, he said to Mel, like, they were talking about this and that, and then he said, well, "Why don't we do this shot? You know, we throw it, and then it comes and sticks in the ground, and
Yeah.
you've got that sort of
Wah,
wave."
wah,
But
wah, wah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that was John's idea, and
Meanwhile, you're in the background going, "Great, now I got
yeah,
to figure
thanks.
out how to
Yeah,
pull this
yeah,
off."
exactly. Yeah, thanks for that, John. Yeah.
Because it's worth pointing out to people listening. This is long. I mean, you didn't have any kind of focus assist to tell you how far away.
No, no,
It
no.
was just yeah.
Came from the
Um,
heart.
so how many times did that take to do? Because it's a beautiful shot.
To
It
be
had to be
totally
long lens.
honest, it was long lens. I think
Yeah.
we were on something like 180 or somewhere in that
Oh my
zone.
gosh.
Might even had
Well,
the 11-1 had just come out then. You remember the
okay.
Hubble
Yeah.
that had
Sure.
just come out, so we may have had that on. It was all high speed as well on film.
Yep.
That's one of those phone calls in the morning scenarios. But I think we only did 2 takes. I think on that.
And who was the operator?
Guy called John Clovier,
Okay, because that's
Canadian guy.
also operating wise, that's a tough shot to get because
Pretty
it's
much, yeah. But John Clovier was a lovely man. Don't get me wrong, but Mr. Toll did quite a lot of operating himself.
yeah, I know he's
Um,
a hands-on guy too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he used to do quite well. He
Sure.
did quite a bit of operating
Yeah.
on that film, and but John did as well. John Clovier,
Yeah.
he did a lot. But for me on that movie, I think my favourite shot is um, when he's coming through the village. They've caught his wife and they
Yep.
put her on the
Yep.
stake and cut her throat. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we did this. It was, I never get it. It was like a 1200 mil. Do you remember? There's a slow mo shot where Mel comes in on the horse.
On the horse with
Uh,
his hands up above his head, right? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And we followed him through the whole village.
Mhm.
Um, Long lens. I think we were doing 120 frames, something like that. The whole thing was all slow mo coming
Oh,
all the
yeah.
way in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that whole sequence,
It's a
like,
great sequence because there's all those,
yeah,
like, just quick shots of people looking up at him as they're walking by, and it
yeah,
just
exactly. And then it cuts back to the long lens bringing him through all
Uh-huh.
the heat, the heat haze and
Yep.
stuff. And again, it's all, we're cranking at 120 frames and just keep going and going. And you've got, what do we have? 2.8, I think, was the stop of the
Uh-huh.
day.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, and you're just winging it because there's
It's
no
just zen.
systems like that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's one of my favorite shots in the whole movie.
Do
Um,
you find when you're doing stuff like that when you do it, you finish it and you just sort of know that you got it? Like there's a feeling of
yeah,
like right? And
well, you
it's
do
hard to
because
explain on
yeah,
stage, right?
yeah, because you didn't have the playback facilities
No.
or the
Was there playback
definition
of
that
any kind?
there was. It used to come on a thing called a clamshell, which was
Yeah,
like
it was
a
that little 8
little,
millimeter thing, but you
little eight
couldn't
mil
tell
thing.
any
Yeah.
focus on that or
Nah,
anything.
and the taps from the Panaflex,
Yep.
even to this day, are still terrible, aren't they? So
I tell you, I don't know about you, and I know. Look, now we're HD, or we're not even HD, whatever we are. I don't know what they call it, but and you and I are looking at this little teeny monitor, and 20 feet away, someone's on a 45-inch, huge, beautiful thing or whatever. But I think there's something that was lost about that you had to trust the focus puller and the camera operator to say, yeah, we're
absolutely,
good, and
absolutely, yeah,
and I think that. I feel for younger people coming up who never had the experience of what we had, because I think we still carry some of that, but they never had
yes,
that feeling of how important a part of the process they are, I should say.
absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely, I totally agree, and I think like the modern digital world has not so much killed the industry off. It's just really, it's a different
It's
environment
changed.
now.
It's changed it. It's
It
changed
is,
it.
yeah. And when funny enough, I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like when the guys that I used to work for and they used to work for, you'd sort of go, God, I don't know, he's going on again. But now I've become that guy. and the
I
youngsters look at
totally,
you.
as if this whole podcast is actually me going, oh, I miss when
And it is, and you suddenly think, oh God, and you talk, but a lot of them are generally sort of film buffs, so they do like to listen. I mean, Danny Bishop asks me all the time,
I
"Oh,
can.
this," because he wants to hear the stories as well, because
Oh, he loves
he is
the
100%, isn't he? It's like,
Danny. Like, I love sitting down and talking to Danny about film because he's just a huge kid when it comes to being excited about movie making, and
yeah, yeah.
there's nothing that tempers that. It's fantastic, and not to mention one of the best operators I've met. Just his work is
Until now,
astounding. But one of the things that I miss a lot, and every once in a while when I still get to do film, which is so rare, um, I'm reminded of it is I miss the vibration of the camera and knowing that something important was happening. Like now,
yeah, yeah,
nothing changes, right? It's like a little red light goes on somewhere, but who cares? It's not. But
yeah.
something was like happening, and something was being created back then. It's just it's a
Well,
different.
for me, it's that, like, check the gate, and that sound when you close the door.
Uh,
That you can't explain that to people.
yeah, boom. Yep.
Another weird thing, for me, the Panaflex had a smell about it.
I knew you were gonna say it. It totally did. It was
Yeah,
partially the film, but it was also that that black stuff on the door that had 100 years
whatever it
of
was,
film in it.
it's
Yeah.
just something about it. Yeah, yeah, and
Well,
obviously when you used to go to prep, the first thing you do, especially in the UK, is you pull
yeah.
the body out the box to see what films it had been on. Because in the
Oh,
UK, they used to put the
they
little
list it? Ah,
list it
that's so
on the,
cool.
and the
Yeah,
first thing you did was pull out to see whether it's something that you'd been on. It's the
that's so
camera that
neat.
you had or whatever, because
Yeah,
you
of
always used to ask for that same camera or the same lenses, but
course. Yeah.
it never happened. But yeah, that was the first thing you did: pull the camera out, have a look to see what that camera had been on, and is
Oh,
it
I
one of
didn't know that.
yours?
I love that they do that. That's such
Yeah,
a
that was a Sammy's thing, and
yeah,
but I don't think probably still somewhere around that those little plaques
yeah.
are.
Oh,
Um,
that's fantastic. I have to assume that Braveheart was not an easy show as a first AC because it seems like it's just mud and rain and dirt
it
and
it was, yeah. The first 7 weeks we were in Scotland,
yeah.
and it rained every single day. You see in the village, you could tell by the
Oh
stream
yeah.
through the village, and it was tough, yeah. And then we did a scene up in the mountains, um, where they're all heading towards somewhere, and the rain was coming in sideways. We had the rain deflectors, but you just couldn't keep it away. It was just coming in at such an angle that it was
Yeah.
just like, and that was. I was sat down and I thought to myself, "What am I doing? Why did I choose this as a career?"
And I mean,
'Cause
was it just hours of cleaning gear at the end of every night in order to get ready
absolutely,
for
yeah,
work?
absolutely, yeah. And again, it was like everyone would walk away.
Yeah.
You'd all sit there and go, right, let's crack a
Uh,
beer and just sit there. And then they decided to go to Ireland. They're moving over to Ireland, and we arrived in Ireland after 7 weeks of constant rain. I mean, in the hotel we had a drying room for our wet weather stuff,
oh yeah.
and but there wasn't enough hours left from when you finished to when you started, so you'd end up going in and your clothes are still wet,
Ah,
and you're putting them on, and it was just like every single day that was.
that just sounds
Um,
horrible. Oh my
it was
gosh.
horrible, but we had a great crew.
Yeah.
Everybody all mucked in and got on with it. So the atmosphere was great in that
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
And then they said, right, we're going to Ireland. So we packed up, finished off. We went to Ireland. I think for the first 3 weeks we had a heat wave in Ireland. This is where we shot the very first big battle scene,
Big battle
which
scene. Okay.
when
Yeah.
you see the film again, you see the sun is just flooding in. It's glorious sunshine, and we come from 7 weeks of constant rain to
Wow.
3 weeks of solid sunshine, and it's suddenly like, I think that was like a recharging moment for the whole crew, because we
I'm
suddenly,
sure.
what is it, vitamin C, is it, or whatever it is they
Yeah.
say is
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. Suddenly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
If I
everybody
feel better, I don't know why.
overdosed. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Everybody overdosed, and obviously the Guinness in Ireland as well.
Oh, there you
Um,
go.
and also at that point, Mel had been so busy and tired. He just said, "Guys, look, what do you think if we just do a 5-day week? Is everybody up for that?" And
Oh, were you
obviously
doing 6-day weeks before
we were
that?
doing 6, yeah, yeah, and
Ugh,
it was just
wow.
too much. And when he suggested that, you can imagine the outcome. It's like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
let's do
You
it.
kidding
Yeah,
me?
the 5-day week, let's have it. And we're in Ireland, which is a
Yeah.
fantastic place to be. So
You mentioned that first battle sequence. I mean, from what I read, they got the Irish army, the soldiers to come in and be in it. So, I mean, are you talking about like thousands of people, or
yes, they had. They was while we were shooting in Scotland. They were originally they were going to shoot it in the UK an
yeah,
army barracks down in the UK, but obviously it was cheaper to do it in Ireland, and they were getting a tax return as well. So they
uh
had a whole team in Ireland training those troops up, and it was three sets. What do you call it? Platoons.
I guess so.
Like
Yeah,
there's
but yeah,
three blocks of different soldiers, and they were all color coded, and they were all been training at fighting and stuff, with the plastic swords and stuff. And then when it come to the day, like the big scene where you remember that scene where they all run towards each other to
oh
meet in
yeah.
the
Well,
middle.
I was going to ask you about that because it's just chaos, and then literally it's like two walls smashing into each other.
Exactly. So what it was the first time they'd all been training for 5, 6 weeks while we were in Scotland, and this was the first time that they're all going to meet each other, and
Yeah,
they're all in the same army, they're all friends and stuff, but it was like their time to really, really go for it.
yeah.
And it was literally basically turn over, off you go, and that was it. You see the impact, and that was for real. It was absolute chaos because they were just going absolutely berserk, just
Wild.
fighting each other because they've been doing this for weeks
Practicing. We
and weeks.
finally
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
do our thing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It's
Yeah, yeah. And our platoon's
amazing.
better than your platoon, and we're going to show you, And it was
Yeah,
so yeah, it was captured that really, really well, So
that's
that's
great.
what sort of went
What
on. Yeah.
What a cool thing to be a part of. That's fantastic.
Oh,
I have to
absolutely.
ask. Yeah, I have to ask you about The Martian because I absolutely love that movie. I just thought that movie was so good. Was it a fun movie to work on?
It was, yeah, it was. It was very good. Yeah,
Where'd you shoot it?
we shot that all in Budapest. Budapest, and where did we go to? Jordan, because
Okay, I was going
Ridley.
to say because Budapest doesn't look like that. So Jordan was where the wide shots were and everything.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because again, Ridley has a relationship with the King of Jordan,
Okay.
and the whole family. So
I
obviously
love the fact that Ridley has a relationship with the
yeah.
king. It's just so random, but
So
like, of
that's why
course,
we go there. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if you look back at Ridley's films, they're always the same places, pretty
yeah,
much,
yeah.
because he knows everybody, and that's where he goes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, it was mostly in the studio, but we had 5 weeks, I think, in Jordan
Yeah.
shooting all the exteriors and stuff.
Is it interesting? I mean, I haven't met that many people who've worked on a movie that where it's mostly one character for the entire movie.
Yeah.
Does it change things? Are you aware of it? I mean, does it make a
Uh,
difference?
Not really, no, because we did a lot of other scenes as well with the rest of the crew from
In and out. Oh, so
yeah. So,
interspersed. Okay.
but then when we had with Matt Damon and stuff, again, he's such a great actor and a
Yeah.
nice person that it's just effortless. You know what I mean? It
Is it?
works, and you just get on with it. Yeah, and you just go with the flow. And for me, that was our third movie on 3D, shooting 3D.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
they shot that 3D. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the release that came out whether that was it back in
It may have
2D.
been some places. I don't
Uh,
remember seeing it that way. But so like 3D meaning with two actual cameras, not some
yes,
post effect. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think it was called the Pace rig at the
Okay.
time. But
Yeah.
we'd come from Prometheus, which was the first 3D
Yeah.
of Ridley's, and I thought he's not going to like this at all, and he did. He really embraced it, because
Uh-huh.
his style of working. it, 3D at the time was too slow for him. So
Yeah.
I thought he's not going to enjoy this, and halfway through we're going to change. But he did. He suddenly, I don't know, he took to it, and then
And
we did.
do you suddenly start creating shots differently because you're shooting 3D?
You do, yeah, as an operator, because when you're looking through, you're only seeing one eye, so you have to be aware of the second angle.
Mhm.
So the rigs we had a camera like this and a camera like this.
One shooting forward and
One
one
straight
shooting down
and one on the top.
into like a splitter
Into a
mirror
big
or
mirror.
something?
Yeah, exactly, into a split mirror. So you
Huh.
had to be aware of what the top camera was seeing. So you could see a frame that was like you and I sitting here now,
Yep.
um, and you'd see that great. But then the other camera sees something completely different,
Yeah.
So you have to bear that in mind. And as operating, it was very interesting to have that concept, because you're
Yeah.
constantly having to think that bit extra. If I come
Yeah.
left a little bit, I can include that, and it all sort of they can
And
converge it
and
better.
are you able to see the 3D effect on a monitor somewhere so you can sort of
Oh,
go look
absolutely,
at
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
You're
Because you have a whole team of people.
yeah, you're
They
tweaking
call
that,
them
right?
convergers and staff
Yep.
that are delivering that. And it was quite funny because we had a production manager and he left, and one of our production people came in from the UK who I'd worked with many times, and she said to me one day, said, "Oh, so with the camera department, like how many of you are there in the camera department?" And I said, "I think there was something like 80 of us."
Oh, because
And
so
she,
many of them are doing
yeah,
that.
and she did exactly that reaction, and she went, "What?" And she said, "Why so many?" And then I had to explain, because you got obviously the video world, then you've got the 3D
Yeah.
stereograph, the whole team, and it was quite a big section of people.
And when you're setting up a shot for that, because I've never done 3D with the exception of one movie that I won't mention. That about 3 weeks in, the director went, "Oh, this shot's gonna look good in 3D," and we went, "What?" And he said, "Oh yeah, because they're gonna do some post thing that makes it 3D
To
after the
make it
fact." And
3D, yeah, yeah,
which is fine, but it's sort of like it'd be great if someone had mentioned that to us because I've never thought about. I mean, granted, I'm putting foreground in like we usually do, but I'm never thinking
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
But anyway, does it change the way you look at setting up shots, or do you just
Yes.
set up? Do you do it normally and then they make it better? I mean,
No, yeah, I think like you say, when you're shooting it 3D with the 3D setup,
yeah,
you have to, yeah, you have to compose that shot totally different to what you normally do because of
yeah,
that, exactly that reason. You end up dressing it more than we try to anyway. When the art
yeah,
department say get out of the way, um,
yeah,
but no, it's good. Like coming from um, when we did Prometheus, which was the early days, and
yeah.
then the next film we did was uh, what was it called? The Moses thing that we did with Ridley. That was also shot in three. Exodus,
Oh,
God,
okay,
God of
yeah,
Kings. Yeah, that was
yeah,
3D. But the move on from Prometheus to that film, the
hmm
3D system was so much better. And then when we come to the Martian, it was even better still. So you were able to zoom and everything in shot, whereas before you couldn't do that. You had to set that size, and that was it, your lens,
yeah,
and which was time consuming because when you change the lens, obviously everything's got to be reset again. Both cameras have to be like, so it took forever. But as it progressed on over those years, by the time the Martian came, we had two zooms on, the little ones, your new zooms, on the red cameras, and we were able to do zooms in shot and everything, and it was fantastic. Because we had
that's
we had three different rigs, so we had a wide rig, a mid rig, and a tight rig. So depending what the shot was, you just took that rig, and you were able to get all the different sizes. You know what I
oh,
mean?
so you actually like to pull a full different set of cameras that were all set up for
Yeah,
that.
so we had like two of each. So we had sort of from I think it was like a 25 to 40, and
Hmm
then the next one was like a 28 to 85 or something like that, and then the next one was the 50 to 120
Yeah,
zoom sizes. Yeah, so we just whatever, like I say, whichever shot that you were doing, you get that rig, pop it in there, plug it in, and off you went. Whereas prior to that, it took forever and ever and ever. So that really moved on in a big way.
and you mentioned that Ridley is so he's got it all in his head ahead of time. Does that include the 3D aspect of it, or does he just stay? This is my how I'm telling the story, and when we get in there, we'll
No,
make
it
it.
did. It did. Like I say, from that very first show we did,
Yeah,
like I say, I didn't think he was going to stick with it, but
yeah,
time progressed on, and the next time and the next time. So yeah, it was playing into how he wanted to,
yeah,
and obviously, as you know now, he's got this reputation where he shoots multi cameras and just lets the actors go.
Well, the thing that I've heard more often now is, as an operator, you're almost not operating very much. It's he wants to be able to manipulate it in post more, and so he's doing
um,
adjustments and whatnot. Or is that not accurate?
I wouldn't say so. No, I think you
Good.
still have to give him something decent. He
Yeah,
still appreciates that, and all of you as operators, you still have to sort of, yeah. It's
that's
not
good.
just shoot
Okay,
it,
I'm
don't
I'm
shoot
glad to
it.
hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It is, and then, like I said earlier on, he trusts in you.
yeah,
So you're able to sort of, do something creative.
that's
He
wonderful.
says to me, he just says, "Oh, Albie, just do some of that arty shit," And basically what he means is, if you've done 2 takes of, a close up,
Yeah,
just find other stuff while
find
he's
something
talking. Just
interesting.
come
Yeah,
down if they're doing stuff with their hands or something's going on,
yeah.
in the set. Just go for it and then come back and that, So and he's cutting it all the time, almost on set. He's sat in the trailer
Oh wow. Yeah.
with the multi setup, and he's got his right hand is the script supervisor who's been with him for a long time as well, and he trusts her as well, and he just says, "I use that bit, I use that bit. Oh, no, let's cut to that bit," and she basically makes notes and sends it off to the editor, and pretty much that's the film cut as we're going along.
So you're saying he's not actually cutting on set, but he's mentally cutting on set.
Mentally, because he's watching it all and he's using, every camera he's got the image of,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's watching and watching and watching, and if something grabs his attention, he's there and he's there. It's a thing to watch, I've got to say.
I've got to say there are very few people. The thing that we always talk about is like once you get past two cameras, for most people, it's just too much to keep track of. But he clearly his mind must work that way. I mean, he
Yes,
has that
exactly,
ability.
because he's just wanting, and he doesn't want the same stuff over and over and over and over. We don't
So
do many takes with him anyway, but
yeah, yeah,
you just go off track and just grab stuff, and
that's
it's
great.
it's going to get used. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he sounds like a joy to work with. I mean, probably tough to work with because I'm sure he's
It's
demanding.
full on, yeah, full on,
Yeah,
but it is a joy. I have to say, I love it. I mean,
that's great.
I've been fortunate to work with a lot of high end directors, and they've all got their own little ways, and you just have to
Yeah.
try and buy into that.
Well,
Yourself as an operator.
when I was looking through your IMDb, the thing that hit me was like this guy's worked on Star Wars movies. He's worked on James Bond movies. He's worked on Indiana Jones movies. It's like you've kind of hit the big things that we all wanted to work on. It's kind of amazing.
Western, that's my thing. I want to do a Western.
A western? You haven't done a western?
I've not done a Western.
I'll tell you, I did a western a couple of years ago. It was during COVID, but it was actually nice for COVID because we were outside at least. And I loved it. It was such a blast. And the thing for me actually was just being around horses all the time, which I'd never been before. it
Right,
was
right.
it was so lovely. It was fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you will. Well, they don't make them as much anymore, but someone will. You tell Ridley
Rid-
to make a western. Has he ever made a western?
no, he wants to. Yeah,
There you go. So
he
that's
wants to
that's
do
the
one.
one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's the person to deal with. What about working on Phantom Menace? Going back
Phantom
a little
Menace.
bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace. So I was a focus puller on Phantom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that was again early days because everything was coded. Yeah, we used the 535s, the early
Okay. So you're
535s
shooting on film. Yeah.
on film. Yeah, all shot on film. And everything was encoded within camera, like the head moves, the tilts, the pans, the lens moves, and everything. That was all their own system. Again, ILM system that they
Yeah.
created. And it was quite funny because you had this ritual that you had to do before, like once you moved the camera, it was a whole setup again of setting the back to, we call it back home,
Okay.
for the computers and stuff.
Oh, the computers. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was all sent back on like a huge big umbilical cable. So we've gone around like a big circle because we're now back with it with the
Like in the
Sony
hot box
Venice.
originally, you can't move the camera.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah. But there used to be, no, you've got to do this. You can't shoot until this is all done, and
Jeez.
and I remember one day we were losing the light, and it was getting, the pressure was getting on, and suddenly all those things that we'd been doing went out the window.
Out the window, go back to normal. Yeah.
Yeah, just turn over. Yeah, just don't worry about
We'll
that.
figure
Just
it out
turn over.
after the fact. And
Yeah,
meanwhile, the
yeah.
digital guys are probably all scratching their eyes out, thinking about all the
Exactly,
work.
yeah, and you just sort of have that moment where you go, yeah, but sorry, don't I need to just do the, and it's like, no, just do as you're told, just turn over, and
Yeah.
it was quite funny, really.
So was there Steadicam on that movie or not?
We had Steadicam, yeah.
So what they do for Steadicam? They just
That
had
was
an
down to
umbilical
the
cord?
no, the Steadicam was Steadicam,
Oh,
and
okay.
they used to measure a bit more,
Okay. So they do
Uh,
more work in post that way. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They sort of used that, what they call it, a data capture people.
Uh-huh. And
Um,
was everything you shot there basically green screen on some level?
It was pretty much, I'd say, 90%. Yeah,
Yeah.
was blue screen, green screen, whatever. We'd have the odd set piece just to give the scale of stuff,
Yeah.
but most of the movie was all blue screen and stuff. So we
Do-
never knew what was happening, what we were into.
Well, so that was my next question. Do those movies get a little old after a while because it's not quite the storytelling that we're used to?
Um,
Do they get boring?
no, I mean, for me, no, because I don't know. It's
You
even
were
if it's a
focused more on
boring,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
even if it's a boring movie, it's still nice to be doing it, isn't it? I mean, come
Sure.
on, it's the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
job in the world, really, isn't it? When
Yep.
you're working, and so yeah, and it was like, to working with all these people, and I've since worked with a few actors that were sort of starting out that was on the Phantom Menace,
Hmm.
and chatting to them and stuff, and it's quite nice to sort of, because they were like, oh yeah, I used to love it. I'm on a Star Wars movie and blah, blah,
Yeah. Right.
um, and for me, not being big-headed again, but for me it was like I was asked to do um, Stephen's film, the war film that he did. So Ryan,
Uh,
Saving Private
Private
Ryan.
Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, I was all down to do that, and then I got a call saying um, George Lucas is doing Star Wars, da, 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 and I thought to myself, that's interesting. I've worked with Stephen,
It
but
doesn't
I
seem
haven't
like I
worked
could
with
go
George.
wrong here, but
Yeah, and it's like,
you picked
I haven't
things.
I haven't
Wow.
worked with him, but I've
Yeah.
worked with him, so I decided to do Phantom Menace
Yeah.
instead. And what was ironic, because I think they were shooting at the same time, and we were in Pinewood, and Stephen was in a studio in London, and he
Hmm.
used to finish early because they were shooting exteriors, and he'd always come by the set
To
and
visit.
say, "Oh, yeah, you guys still working? No, we wrapped an hour ago," and all that sort of stuff. And then he said to me one day, he said, "Look, why didn't you want to come with me anymore?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Well, I've already worked with you. I haven't worked with this guy." And it was that sort of nice banter that
Yeah.
we had
That's
there, sort of
great.
thing. So it's like,
Look,
yeah, so
clearly all these guys respect you, which says a lot. I mean, that's fantastic, and they understand why people want you.
I
Well, it's a
hope so.
pretty cool. It's a pretty cool place to be. But look, I think in talking to you and just hearing your manner and obviously the things you've done, you've earned that. I mean, it's not nobody gave that to you. It's because you've done good work and you continue to do good work, and it's always nice when that's actually rewarded as opposed to what we've also seen sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like yourself. There's been times when you think, why the hell are we doing this?
Yeah,
But deep down, we do actually love it, don't we? When you go on location, you don't get any time off, because people say to me, and they probably say to you, "Oh, you're so lucky because you go here, you go there," and yeah, I guess we are lucky, but you don't really get to have time off in those places, do you? It's not a holiday.
I don't think it's not as glamorous as everybody thinks it is. It's still great, but it's not as
Exactly, yeah. There's hard work. Like, your only day off would be on a Sunday, but where do
yeah.
we go? You go and scout for the following week, don't you?
Yeah,
And it's
and then there's also the thing for every time that you get to go to a mountaintop and film as the sun's going down and whatever is where you're in the mud and like you said, everybody's wrapped and you're trying to pull your boots out of them,
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah,
trying to get the gear to the truck and everything.
yeah,
So it's pluses and minuses, but
yeah.
I wouldn't do anything else in the world. It's
No,
it's a great job. It's a great
same
job.
here, same here.
Uh,
Yeah.
so you did Extraction 2?
Yes, yeah.
I
That
mean
was
that movie is nonstop. It's completely insane. I mean, were you doing handheld in that, or were you doing what? I mean,
we were doing everything. Yeah, we were
yeah,
doing everything, and it was what I used to call it. It was a stunt fest.
I can totally
Yeah,
imagine.
because it's just like, the whole thing. Even Sam, obviously ex stuntman himself.
The
It was
director.
just the director, yeah.
Yeah,
So all the stunt guys and that, they all had their own vision of what they wanted to do.
I can
So
only imagine.
it,
Yeah,
it was full on, 100%. But again, enjoyable. It's
yeah.
just like in a strange sort of way. It was really, really hard work, but really nice, enjoyable to do. And it was.
And there are those sequences there that just go on for, I mean, 10 minutes or
The
whatever.
old oneers, yeah, 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 yeah.
They don't stop. I mean, is that weeks and weeks of preparation?
A lot of working out, yeah, and sort
Yeah.
of, by the time I got involved, they'd sort of already worked that out. The stunt guys had
Okay.
worked it out. They work it all out on the iPhone or the Black Magic, and
Yeah.
then you rock up with the Alexa 65 or whatever, and they
Why
expect you
can't
to
it do
do the
that?
same. Yeah, exactly. And you go, really, guys, come
The
on,
physics
So
aren't quite the same. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
you shot that with the Alexa 65.
We had it sometimes, but we used to use what did we call it? It was just like a stripped down the Arri Mini thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know
The,
what you're talking about.
the
But
little,
the
little
smaller
one.
version. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so we'd strip that down to sort of like the lens and the focus
Yeah.
ring, and that was it, and everything else was just.
Just
It
run
was just
around with it.
run around with it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
Is and I'm assuming is that the one where there's the handoffs in and out of the car during the
Yes.
car
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
motorcycles, right? So I mean, that sequence there must be what, 8 or 9 camera operators or something, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
well, a lot of the stunt guys sort of get involved in that sort of
yeah.
stuff as well,
Okay.
and the stuff on the front of the car, they'd strap themselves into the front of the car,
Yep.
and they'd say, "Oh, do you mind if I do this one?" And I go, "Please, yeah, I'm not going to fight you for it." It's like if
Well,
you want.
so that was a question I had. Is you look at a lot of that stuff, and it seems. I mean, I'm not saying it's unsafe, but it seems like it could be unsafe. Let me it's much easier for that to be unsafe than maybe the stuff you're doing on Phantom Menace in front of
It's
in front of
unsafe
the
if
police.
you're not a stuntman. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, how do you gauge those things? You just basically say, this. I'm not designed for this. This is on you, or
They it is designed, but it's like they don't force you into it,
yeah.
and if you're not comfortable,
Okay.
they're not. It's not a big issue, you know what I mean?
It's
And it
not.
was like,
They
but
understand
they
that this
understand
is
it, but
not.
also it's not totally dangerous because it obviously the studio wouldn't allow it,
No, no, of course. Yeah.
So, but there was times when like I say, they go, oh, we're going to go on the front of the car, and we just strap you in with a harness, a body harness, and I go, yeah, go on, he can do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
let him
Yeah.
do that, he designed that shot, let him do it,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
they wanted to, so you do that, and we did an awful lot of work in the shoot arm as well.
Uh-huh.
So I used to jump in there. It was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, fly
I do
around.
the
Yeah,
car
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I'll be in here, you do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I
I'll
think that
chase you everywhere. Yeah.
but that comes down to not letting your ego get in the way, right? And saying,
Yes,
"Look, you
exactly.
are better designed for this. You're a stunt person. You know how
Yeah,
to."
absolutely,
Better,
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's it's the same with working with Tom Cruise on the mission. If he wants to run down the street, I can't run down the street with him. I'm
yeah,
too old for
yeah,
that. But if one of the stunt boys wants to do it, go on. I don't mind.
yeah,
I'm not gonna. It's the same for me. If you want to do it, all right, do it. And it's yeah. But
yeah,
they were very good in that respect. Like I say, if you didn't feel comfortable, you just say,
yeah,
and it wouldn't become an issue like, oh, you're chicken or whatever, you're supposed to do it or whatever. It was none of that. It was just, it's your show. You do it. You do it better than I can. I'm not a stuntman.
yep, yep, yeah.
So
No,
yeah, I've got a great photo. I'll send it to you once we finish. A great photo of a shot that I was handheld. Um, and you've seen the movie, yeah?
sure.
So the sequence where they're in the like business complex with all the high buildings, where the
The high
helicopter
rise,
comes off
yeah,
the roof, yeah.
yep, hmm
And there's the car chase, and the car comes around, and it flies past me, and it clips the car, and there's like a small explosion.
hmm
Small explosion, they said, yeah. And this thing came through, and it was just like Wow. I'll send you the picture. It's an amazing shot. That
Meaning it was it was closer than you thought, or something, or
the explosion wasn't a small explosion.
oh, the
Um,
explosion. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it was not what they said.
yeah,
It was just supposed to be a little flash or whatever. But
yeah.
when you see the picture,
Okay.
you'll see what I'm
Well,
on
we
about.
joke all the time that the worst thing I hate to hear is when I'm working with new people and you bring something up that's safety wise and they go, oh, no, 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 we do this all the time.
Yeah,
That to me is sort of the kiss of death because it's like,
yeah,
hey, it's
yeah,
fine, don't worry about it.
yeah.
So yeah, but that's exciting, and I mean that movie. I watched that, well, the first one and the second one,
It's a great
and
movie. Yeah,
I just couldn't, I didn't have time to breathe because it was like it never stops. It's
yeah.
kind of, and
But that's the
it was entertaining. I will say that.
absolutely.
You know,
But that's the energy on the floor
I'm
as
sure.
well. While
Yeah,
you're shooting it, and
go
you
go go go
and you
go.
yeah, and you buy into that, and it's just like all of a sudden they go, okay, that's a wrap, guys, and you go,
What
really?
happened?
Okay.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
it's like it's just the whole day's gone, and you've just been 100 mile an hour all the time,
yeah,
in a nice way,
yeah.
which is
Uh,
good.
that's great, and I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old were you when you did Extraction 2?
How old is it? How long ago was that? 2 years,
I
3 years,
Three. I'm gonna say 3, 4 years ago.
3 years.
Three.
So if it was 4 years, I was 64.
That makes me very happy. It means I have a future. That's impressive. I mean, is that? Do you find as you get older, is it the hardest thing? Is the physical toll that it takes, or do you?
For me, no, because I'm quite active at home because I've got three boys that are all into soccer or
Oh, there
football,
you
as
go.
we
Good.
call it,
Yep.
and so in my spare time, I'm just out coaching and doing that sort of stuff with
That's
them.
wonderful.
So I
Yeah.
don't know whether that helps. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's
No, I don't know. I just it's as someone who's not 64 yet. Or, well, you're older than that now. I have to ask. Do you have a favorite movie that you worked on? And I'll ask it in two ways. One is the finished product, and if it's a different one is the experience.
um,
Neither are same.
it's a tough shout. I mean, I like I said earlier, I just love everything that I do,
Yeah.
um, even if they're not a good film. But I think like Braveheart is one of those that's high
Yeah.
up on the list.
Hmm.
Um, the Vampires again is high on the list purely for exactly what you're
Sure.
asking.
Yeah.
But as a sort of the best ever, it's really hard to say. Really,
Okay. Fair enough. I,
really.
by the way, just finished working with Brendan Gleeson.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. He was
what
great.
a
Such a
one
nice man.
What a wonderful, wonderful guy. I had so much fun with him and just so smart, so well read. And he was telling me that he said, they were in Braveheart. And I mean, he must have been, I don't know, he must have been in his late 20s or something like that. Or I mean, he was a young man in Braveheart. That was a while ago. Maybe he was in his
Yeah,
30s.
he may have been a bit,
Yeah, he
maybe a
might have
bit
been a
older
little
than
older,
that. Yeah,
but he
yeah,
said that they brought him to, Mel Gibson flew a bunch of them back to the States for the premiere, and he said it just tickled him because they were in the midst of all this Hollywood, whatever, and everybody's fawning over them because of this movie or whatever, and he and his friends are just looking around trying to figure out where they can get a good beer, and
yeah,
he
yeah.
could care less about any of it. He said
Yeah,
it was.
no, exactly. Yeah.
Well, but such a wonderful man, and he had really interesting stories about. I can't remember any of them now, of course, but about Braveheart that he shared with me.
Because the one that sticks in mind for me is obviously him. But do you remember the Irish guy?
The
Uh,
sort of crazy one.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah.
was like, but that's how he was
Oh,
on the
really? There
set.
wasn't a lot of
Completely
acting there.
bonkers. Yeah, yeah. It was like, but really, really nice man. And
Yeah.
I've worked with him since on the Harry Potters and stuff.
Oh, is that
Um,
right?
yeah, and it's just crazy man, but such a nice man with it. And it was, you know,
That's great.
all that stuff was sort of pretty much ad lib that he was
Yeah.
doing.
Is
And
that
it was
right? Because he has
yeah,
that
yeah.
great line where he tells me that I'm gonna be okay, but pretty much you're fucked.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's my island and stuff.
It's
Yeah,
my
but it's
island. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And all those people show up. No, he's fantastic. Oh, so there's not a lot of that's not too far from the reality. So and you've worked on Harry Potter movies.
I've worked a load of Harry
You
Potters. Yeah.
basically worked on all of it. I have to ask: is having passed away, unfortunately. But is Alan Rickman as wonderful a person as I hope he is?
Yeah, I mean, I've been so fortunate in my career that I've worked with pretty much everyone.
Yeah,
And yeah, he's just, they're professionals,
yeah,
when they've been
good.
doing it so long and that they're so good, and they're doing a job like us, you know.
Well, they
And
aren't all like that, but I think I get the feeling that in England they might be a little more so that way than the United States. I don't know why, but
yeah,
uh,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, some of them are really difficult, and
everybody's different. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and there's been times when you have a difficult actor. I'm not going to name any names, but you have
no,
a
no, no.
difficult one, and doing what we do as an
Yeah,
operator or as a focus puller, you can more or less not get your own back, but you can point out to them that they're not as special as they think they are. And there'd be times when like I say, there was one occasion where I think it was like 3 pages of dialogue, and this guy had been quite difficult through a whole movie, just not for us as a camera department, but
hmm,
most departments. And then he spilled off this 3-page scene,
yeah,
and everyone goes, "Okay, great, great, yeah, we're good to move on." And you go, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, we had a slight technical." What do you mean? Oh, we had a dropout on the pixels or whatever. I think we
yeah,
need to go again. And they look at you like, "What? We've got to go?" And you don't say anything. You just give them that look of like,
yeah.
"Okay, we
You can
can
do it.
play that game." If
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
yeah, and that sort of, I don't know, it diffuses the situation, I think, and they
yeah.
realise that, yeah, come
We're
on,
all
there's
important.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but let me ask you quickly about that. Like, what do you when you show up on set on one of these sets with a big name actor and they're wonderful, they're Tom Hanks. It's a no brainer because it's just hanging out with someone who just wants to make it better. But not asking you any names at all. What do you do when you show up on a set as the A camera operator and you're working with an actor who is tough? How do you have a way of dealing with that?
I think, like I was saying, I don't know. I tend to personally, I think I get on very well with everybody, and just having worked with all those big names, you sort of, it's just another person, isn't it? Um, most times, not being again saying being flash, but most times I've worked with them before. So it's like, and if they remember you, it's like, oh great, but if not, you sort of eventually you get onto the subject and they go, oh
Yeah,
yeah, God, yeah, I remember. I
yeah.
did a film recently with Piers Brosnan,
Uh-huh.
and again, he's such a lovely man, and we were talking about various things, and I said, "Do you remember I did your very first screen test when you were auditioning for the Bond?" And he said, "Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, and that was way back after A View to a Kill. He was the next Bond coming in,
Hmm.
and we did. And he sort of said, "Oh God, yeah, I remember that." He said we were both young then and stuff, and it was really nice that we were just chatting in that way. And also on that same show we had Ben Kingsley,
Ah.
and I'd worked with Ben when he was Ben Kingsley, and then the next movie I worked with him, he was Sir Ben Kingsley.
And from what I understand, he prefers to be called Sir Ben
Sir
Kingsley.
Ben, yeah, yeah. So again, I had this sort of running conversation with him about, do I call you Ben, Sir Ben, Ben, Sir, Sir? And this sort of whole thing went on, and he just said
Yeah,
to me, I won't say the word, but he said, just go away. um, but it's just, yeah, it's just all that sort of stuff that you just try
yeah,
to get that relationship. And I think also, as you know yourself with operating, if you can get on with the actors or whatever and make them feel comfortable,
yeah.
I think that you get, not that I would get a better performance out of them, but you make them feel comfortable with what you're doing. You know what I mean? And I think it shows on the
I I
screen.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I tell younger operators that I pride myself in trying to let the actors, I mean, quietly, I don't say it out loud, but through what I'm doing, know that I'm there really to protect them as much as I can, and to give them
Absolutely,
sort
yeah,
of like a happy place where they can do their work. Where you know as well as I do that you and I are sort of the audience, right? We're five
yeah,
feet away, or
yeah,
we're right
yeah,
up in front of them, or whatever.
uh-huh, yeah,
And so and sometimes with me, it's just almost if they've done an amazing just giving some amazing performance. It's just pulling your eye off the eyepiece, and there's a look, and they know, like,
Absolutely,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Or you
I
just
made
give
you
them the
happy.
thumbs up or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And nowadays with digital, I find, like, we'll cut. We're sitting there, and the actor's sitting there, and I'm sitting there, and you don't hear anything because some conversation is going off somewhere, and you're
yeah,
like, well, I mean, are we going again? Did they like that?
yeah.
So
And they're looking for some sort of response, and you go,
yeah,
"Oh, I guess they're chatting about lunch or
yeah.
something
You're
like
like,
that, you know." And
yeah, but when you look at them, you go, well, I loved it, and I mean,
yeah,
suddenly it's like, oh, I got one,
yeah, yeah.
So I think you're right. I think there is a huge thing there, and it seems like there's no right or way. You have to read the room,
Yes,
and figure
yeah,
out what they need, and sort of help
yeah.
with that. So
Yeah,
I think,
and like the younger actors and stuff that sometimes you say to them, "Oh look, when you do such and such, just give us a little look here or there," and it's something like Michael Caine would do, or Ben Kingsley would do, or whatever, and you just say to them, "Oh yeah, he would have done that," or Tom would have done that, and you
boom,
sort of and they go, "Oh really?" So then suddenly they think, "Oh great," and it's not as if that you're telling them what to do. It's just like that little bit of
yeah,
advice that just throw their way. You know what I mean? It's like,
appreciated. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
that's
yeah.
fantastic.
And you win their trust.
Well, and that's what it's all about. It's trust. I mean, at
Yeah,
the end of the day, and I'm sure you've seen it before, is you sort of go out of your way to make sure that they look good, and make sure that their
yeah,
phone's off, and make sure their sides aren't there or whatever. And then when something isn't working out, they'll lean in and go, hey, if I just slow down around that corner, is that going to help you? Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course
that's
it is.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
absolutely.
want to
Yeah,
help you.
yeah, yeah,
You're a team.
yeah,
That's
absolutely. Exactly what it is. It's a team effort from everyone.
Well, you have had an amazing career, and I so appreciate you sharing all these stories. They're incredible. I feel like I've just scratched the surface, and I can understand. I have this image of, like, Danny wanting to eat lunch with you every day and going, so just tell me all about da
Tell
da
me
da
this.
da.
Tell me that. Tell me this. Yeah, yeah,
Because I do the same thing. It's just wonderful. So I appreciate it. I'm going to leave you with the question that I leave everybody with, and you can just take us out. Uh, Advice on how to succeed in this business, and or maybe something you wish you knew early on that you learned, sort of later on in your career.
yeah. Okay, so for me, I'd say that probably what I could say to you guys out there is that if you want to be in the camera department, for instance, um, just get close to the camera, watch, learn, listen to everything that's going on. And we had this old saying that you have the inner ear, where you could be chatting away to somebody, but you can hear what's going on behind. And if the DOP says, "Oh, put a 40 on a finder," you hear it because you're chatting away like we are, but you hear him ask for a 40 on a finder, and you go, "Oh yeah, okay," and you're on it, and just being totally aware of the environment around you, I think, and just stay by the camera. That's what I did all those years. Stay by the camera and learn, because you can learn so much from watching people. Your operator, your DOP, the way he lights. A bit of fill here, a bit of bounce there. Your operator, how he conducts his way around the camera and stuff. Your director, what he's asking for. All those things. If you're so distance away, like a lot of the assistants now are all locked into their monitors way back off the set. If that's the way they work, fine. But I think personally, you got to be there up front with everyone, because you could be doing something and suddenly the operator looks like, well, I want to focus back there, but you're too far away to get that note across. Just be in amongst it. That's my advice. I think just stay with your camera like we used to, and you can learn so much.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening, and have a great day.